Tom Tillis says that while he believes Trump's actions run afoul of the Constitution in the strictest sense, he believes nobody should bellyache about that.
You're comfortable if he shuts those down without getting congressional approval?
Congress will be involved at some point, but I think the country's comfortable.
They're using that authority right now in a way it hasn't been used in a long time, so it looks radical. It's not.
Do you think he violated the law?
Well, technically, yeah. I'm not, losing a whole lot of sleep.
I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws that precluded that.
Arizona House Republican Eddie Biggs introduced a bill this week that would abolish OSHA, a Department of Labor agency tasked with overseeing workplace safety.
Make America great again, right? That's what we care about.
Dang. Things are moving fast. In my last video, I talked about Jon Stewart's struggle to differentiate the authoritarian state from the fascist politics that give rise to it, which was fun and all, but we can actually go a step deeper, right? Come here. You want the real stuff, right? The deep theory? Listen, that's not something I really wanted to cover on this channel. I ditched that stuff years ago for art and science. Well, I mean, running out of time. So I get it. You want me to talk about Italian philosopher and architect Paul Virilio. And sure, I'll talk. But first, my friend mentioned I have a bunch of games in the backdrop of most of my videos, and I never talk about them. So we're gonna use some games as props. Imagine a game where everyone's trying to collectively build a rocket to escape a dying world. That's this game. You go around in a circle contributing resources to a pool, and at the end of the round, the player that contributes the most resources gets an influence token and gets to draw from the event deck. They also get to go first on the next round. At the end of the game, you count up the total amount of resources to determine how many seats on the rocket you've built. And the player with the most influence gets to board the rocket first, and then it keeps going down from there. The idea here is that everybody can win the game if you all just work together. But the event cards and the influence tokens start to pit everybody against each other. Now, you only have 15 minutes total to build this rocket. So this game is all about speed. The faster you go, the more resources you can contribute to your final goal, building that rocket so you can escape the dying world you're creating. This is kind of what Paul Virilio talks about in his book Speed and Politics. But instead of a game, he's talking about like everything. Virilio says that in our world, speed is super important. Whoever goes the fastest gets to make all the rules. The faster we go, the quicker we can do things. And doing things is a fundamental motivator for capital. It's how money flows. And Paul says there's like 3 types of speed that really drive how society works. How quickly we can do things, how quickly we can share information, and how quickly we can travel from place to place. Creation, communication, transportation. Everything that makes up STEM. Now, the people or countries who can do things the fastest, well, typically they're the most powerful. The way this happens is through advancements in artificial human evolution. Technology. Paul talks less about making things and more about transportation and communication. Inventions like phones, computers, planes, trains, and automobiles all help us do things more quickly. This flattens the world and changes how we think and live. Because we can move ourselves and everything essential to make us live anywhere around the globe in the blink of an eye and send instantaneous messages to people thousands of miles away with the press of a button, it feels like the entire Earth has become shrunk down close together. And that changes how we interact with the world around us and time itself. Everybody's favorite Karl Marx called this the annihilation of space by time, which is absolutely sick and also the name of my next metal album. Virilio expanded this idea into something he called dromology. Basically, dromology tries to explain how speed and acceleration shape various aspects of human existence, from urban development to geopolitics. Speed, he argued, has become the primary measurement and agent of progress in modern society. He also believed that the history of society could be understood through the lens of speed, particularly in military advancements and their impact on civilian life. So anything forward and backward in time from the present moment is accelerating toward or away from us in time. And while moving fast towards the future can be good, it can also cause problems. When everything moves too quickly, it can be hard to make good decisions and keep up with everything that's happening. Every technological advancement brings about its own new form of accident. Or as the tech industry puts it, move fast and break things.
The move fast and break things ethos is extraordinarily profitable.
I'm of the belief that values are only useful when they're controversial. Sometimes we go too fast and we mess up a bunch of stuff and then we have to fix it, and that's cool. It gets us into tons of trouble.
So I tell young students, you're working for an hour and a half a day for Mark Zuckerberg for free. How does that feel? Karl Marx would be confused.
What Zuckerberg meant when he said move fast and break things, the things he was talking about were software. But unfortunately now you can move fast and break things, and those things are people.
This doesn't say move fast.
slow down and fix your shit.
Yeah.
Virilio called this the integral accident. Trains lead to train wrecks, planes lead to plane crashes, cars lead to car accidents. The information age has now led to misinformation and frauds, scams, and cyber warfare. To that last point, Virilio's conclusion is that the people who can move the fastest often end up being the ones in charge. In anacyclosis, that's how you get a strong leader type to lead you from mob rule into monarchy. Just as evolution is a race to dominate all the other species, technology is a race to dominate ourselves. He didn't write that one, I did. The immediate effects of speed afflicting our lives as a result of rapidly advancing communication technology are pretty easy to spot. We're drowning in information, yet constantly seeking the wisdom of charismatic dummies. Technology keeps us constantly connected with the world around us, while isolating us further and further into little bubbles at the same time. These are some of the integral accidents inherent to the speed of communication technology, being weaponized by capital through the creation and exploitation of tech monopolies. These tech monopolies leverage their control over increasingly fast and pervasive systems of transportation and communication to consolidate power. This process accelerates the potential for large-scale accidents, while simultaneously reducing the amount of time for societal contemplation and democratic decision-making, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of power concentrated in the hands of those who control these technologies. The taxi industry was devoured by Uber and Lyft. The big three automakers are becoming Tesla, NASA to SpaceX. Brick and mortar retail is just Amazon now. Our phones are either Apple or Google, and our computers are either Apple or Microsoft. Twitter got bought and turned into X. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp are all owned by Meta, and YouTube's owned by Google. IT is just like Oracle and Salesforce, that's it. Music and podcasts, you got Apple and Spotify. For audiobooks, it's Amazon again with Audible. It's all like the same 5 companies. Tech bros own everything, including like almost an entire Hawaiian island. These people have gotten absolutely off the rails. A relic here. This is my mom's vintage risk board from 1980. You know, the start of all of this. How does all this help us explain fascism and the current Trump administration? How can we help Jon Stewart further understand how all of this works? I really hate talking about like the lead up to World War II on this channel. Unfortunately, that's the most accurate and appropriate parallel I have to current modern times. Ugh. The Nazis came up with the concept of blitzkrieg well before Paul Virilio ever started writing about speed in politics. I mean, it probably inspired it. In this Atlantic article, they talk about how Hitler dismantled Germany's democracy in just 53 days. Uh-oh, looks like we did too. By moving fast, he didn't allow his opponents time to defend. Then they applied the same tactic to the military and swept Europe to subjugate the continent. They were able to do this so quickly, mostly because people couldn't believe what was happening until it already happened. In the shock doctrine, Naomi Klein talks about how the United States has historically used tactics of shock and awe to rapidly replace entire ways of life with the interests of capital. Destabilizing Chile to put Pinochet in power, United Fruit hiring the CIA to stage a coup in Guatemala. I mean, name a South American country and we've probably done a coup there in the name of capitalism. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the United States finally unleashed the shock doctrine on its own people, rapidly rewriting and privatizing Louisiana's education system. Now it's, not great. And now that Trump won not only a second term, but the House, Senate, and Judiciary all goose-stepping behind him, and the richest man in the world is an unelected deregulation czar, they're rapidly moving to use the shock doctrine on the unsuspecting Chuck Schumers of the world who didn't realize that capital had reached its end game in the United States already. If Jon Stewart were waiting for it to hit, that was the election. And it's been rolling ever since and only picking up speed. So, are we doomed to create forever faster and faster technologies and more destructive accidents? Well, not necessarily. If you know the risks of going too fast ahead of time, you can plan ahead and mitigate them before they arise. I mean, we might be too late for that, but we'll see. If we can decelerate our descent into authoritarian technocracy and claw back some regulatory power from the fascists, then we can start to actually fix things.
Make America great again, right? That's what we care about.
The end of the anacyclosis Ouroboros does not have to be mob rule. To explain where we might start to break our current trajectory into societal collapse, Virilio first looks to cities, because he's an architect, to see a physical space where speed is controlled. Just how there's like speed limits on roads, Cities have ways of making people and things move faster or slower. Subways, buses, sidewalks, cars, traffic. To fix the speed problem in politics, it's like a mindset thing, right? The federal government shouldn't be working like a business, it should be working like a city, where processes are put in place to speed up or slow down the advancement of various interests based on equitable need. We had that infrastructure here for a while, but it's been eroded away since the 80s by the entropy of capital and the rise of Silicon Valley's no-rules approach to technology. The result is an extension of one of the most fundamental questions that humans ask ourselves. Just because you can do something, should you? Just because we can extract untold amounts of wealth from people, should we? Or is there some type of integral accident built into that concept that we should be worrying about? I don't know, like a violent proletariat revolution or something? To reinstall the brakes on the car and avoid 1770s America, instead of looking at 1930s Germany to rebuild, we should probably be looking at 1930s United States to rebuild. You know, FDR's New Deal. That thing that got us out of the Great Depression. It's tough making these videos because there's not really a good way to like fix all of this, right? I mean, there are, but the richest people in the world have paid billions of dollars to make sure that people who don't subscribe to my channel don't understand this stuff. Mostly because every option's bad for them. Either there's like a revolution in a Marie Antoinette situation, or we have to remove capital from the heart and brain of our economic system. It's about as easy as curing cancer. That's like what it is. Few ways to get rid of cancer. Either you die from it, you like radiation it away, or you go through this like years-long arduous process and lose all your hair. There's really no winning with cancer. Like, how do we even do that though? Where do we even start? Well, we start with slowing down. If somehow we get through 2 years of this with elections unscathed, doubtful, the people we elect to replace Congress need to reassert control. They can do that by passing a few key bills to remove capital's influence from politics. Overturn Citizens United and get money out of politics. Abolish the two-party political system by adopting ranked choice voting and like a parliamentary system to accommodate more parties. And then from there, it's all about reducing income inequality, empowering unions, and fixing infrastructure through large-scale public works projects that employ displaced working-class people. That's the job of the government with the private sector, is not creating enough jobs. It's supposed to create jobs and pick up the slack. The exact opposite of what Doge is doing. Seriously, the solutions to these problems are that easy. All we have to do is change our mindset and collectively reject these guys, obvious con men and liars, and put in the work to take back what was illegally purchased from us by the oligarchs. This isn't a left-right issue, it's a speed issue. And we need to hit the brakes on capitalism before the entire car has been dismantled out from under us. Personally, the best way that I know how to fight against oligarchy is by educating people in the best way I know how. YouTube. You know, we have an opposition leader in our midst. I'm filming this video on the anniversary of when I went to my first Bernie rally. This is a working class folk hero. He's been out there preaching the truth for over 50 years, desperately trying to avoid what history's been telling us we're in the middle of for ages now. It's time to listen to Bernie and get to work.
If there has ever been a time in the modern history of our country to stand up and fight back, now is that time. Trumpism will not be defeated by politicians inside the DC Beltway. For better or worse, that is not going to happen. The ruling class, these guys don't become billionaires because they're dummies. They're not. They're very smart guys. They work very hard. One of the things that they do, which is very powerful and effective, is they essentially get the word out in one way or another. The people of this country that says, look, we're multi-billionaires. We own the media. We own the political process. We own the company that you work for. We got the power. You don't. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Your job is to work for us. That's what your job is. And they want to, when they say those things implicitly, what they are trying to do is demoralize the American people and make us feel hopeless. Oh God, we can't do anything. That's what they want you to believe. It ain't true. If we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up by the color of our skin or our religion or where we were born or our sexual orientation, if we stand together, we win. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a PhD in math, but I do know that 99% is a hell of a larger number than 1%. Now is the time to go outside of our comfort zone. Now is not the time for despair, for feeling helpless. Now is the time to stand up, to fight back, to take on Trumpism, and not only to defeat Trumpism, but to create the kind of great nation we know we can become.
Man, there's so much more I could have talked about with Paul Virilio. I didn't even talk about his best concept, Indo-colonization. What a tragedy. And a mouthful. Nah, this was just supposed to be a juicy little nugget for you to chew on, to hopefully get you out there reading about this stuff. I'm sure Paul would have had thoughts about how that's just a byproduct of technology's drive for speed and efficiency. He's probably right. Speaking of juicy nuggets, while you're out there reading about Paul, why don't you pick up this collection of short stories I was just published in Primal Voices. All the stories are about dinosaurs interacting with humans in some way. My story is about a group of scouts trying to get their wilderness survival merit badge in the middle of a dinosaur attack at their scout camp. Uh-oh. I think it slaps, and it's basically one half of my pitch for the perfect Jurassic Park sequel. If that sounds cool, check out the link in the description or search for Primal Voices on Amazon and I'm sure you'll find it. Otherwise, thanks for watching and subscribe for more. Now it's time to eat these nuggets. Frozen food section Arby's curly fries actually slap too. Yum. Indo-colonization is this idea that like technology is colonizing our bodies, minds, and souls to reorganize humans around efficiency and speed in an effort to make like novel forms of new technology. It's all like really complicated stuff. I gotta reread the book myself just to kind of rewrap my brain around it. That's important.